Can everybody see my screen? I only need to hear one person say yes, and then I know it's good.
I can see your screen.
Okay, thank you. I have a few slides to go through. What I wanted to do was talk about the cyber competitions that we've been holding at Ferris State, maybe some of the lessons learned and some of the challenges and so forth, because I know cyber competitions are quite the rage right now. So first of all, just to give you a little bit of orientation, Ferris State is part of the State of Michigan university system, and we're located in the dead center of Lower Peninsula of Michigan. We have an information security and intelligence degree at the associate's, bachelor's, and master's level. And we started in 2007, and we're a CAE since 2011. And we recently went through the ABET accreditation for cybersecurity. So the way we work the cyber competitions is we have high schools come in to campus. They take a day from school and bus in, and we're finding that the number of schools that want to participate far exceeds the capacity that we have in terms of competition space. So there's been considerable interest. The way we set up the competitions is we're open to anyone. We're not just going after, say, students that are in a computer curriculum at their school or something like that. It doesn't matter. We are very interested in having students thinking about career fields, particularly in cyber, if that happens to become the interest. But think about them early. So we have high school students that are anywhere from freshman to senior that come to the competition. We also have tech centers and things like that come. Now, the way the competitions are set up is it's a bit of a capture the flag, and I'll go through the logistics a little bit. But we actually have a game board. One of the faculty member in the ISI program was a pretty crack programmer, and he utilized a Facebook API to make this gaming system that we use in kind of a capture the flag. And I'll demonstrate the game in a few minutes, but I just give you a couple of screenshots of it. This is what the game looks like. And basically, you set up questions behind countries, and then when the competition is going, a student would select a country, and it has a certain number of points based on the difficulty of the question and so forth. And if they capture a country, they get the points, and then that country is flagged as captured. Now, other teams can go after that same country, but they won't get as many points. So there's an advantage to being someone that captures a country first. The other thing is there's different point values. Some of the questions have hints, some of them don't. And what we do is some of the hints is we'll put in where the hint costs you more than the question is worth sometimes, so that they don't just automatically start choosing hints. But what we end up having is about 100 to 150 students. We break them up into teams of 3, and we've done several surveys and things, and that's the team number that's the most popular among the students. And then we have them go after the game. This is what a question might look like, and we have different question sets on different competition. So for example, our January competition might be on digital forensics, our February competition might be on big data, our March competition might be on pen testing or something like that. And this is what a question would look like. So if you clicked on Mexico, it happens to be a Celebrate question for mobile forensics, and they would have to know what one of the contacts' phone numbers was. So they would have to go into the Celebrate tool and examine the image to find out what that phone number was. And this particular question has no hint, and it's worth 4 points. And it hasn't been captured yet, so it's worth the full 4 points. There's a scoreboard, so you can see up in the upper left, where you might stand versus the other teams and so forth. And there's a game clock, so you can see how long the game's going to run. And they typically will run sessions an hour to an hour and a half, that type of thing. Now, here's the logistics. What we do is we contact the various schools, and we found that the ISDs, in Michigan, an ISD is the Intermediate School District. It's kind of like a county level collection of all of the schools, and that person then contacts the individual school districts. We found that to be a very effective way to identify schools quickly and get things coordinated. We offer $250 per school, and what that covers is a bus driver and a substitute. And that makes it very easy for any school district to participate. So we don't have it limited to just the school districts that are in a good financial situation. And this is kind of what a schedule would look like. So the schools would be on campus about 9:30, and we have a little bit of a logistics session. We start in an auditorium. And if there's a topic, like, for example, on this schedule, it's open source intelligence. So we'll spend a half hour, maybe 45 minutes, it depends on the topic of the day, giving them an overview of open source intelligence and some techniques and tool set usage and that type of thing. And then after that, we'll break them up into teams of 3, and send them to various rooms where they'll start the competition. And when they have the competition going, the first thing they have to do is register and so forth. So I'm going to break out of the slides a second and bring up the game. So this is the actual game board, and you can see how much time is in the game. I've got it going all day because I didn't want it to turn off. And this in the upper left is the scoreboard, and you can see of all the teams that are registered so far, nobody has any points. So I could go like to Russia, and I could see, well, that looks like an easy question, and I can, how many installed applications are on the Samsung phone image? And then I would answer what I thought it was and submit, but 20 is not the right answer. And there's no hint, so I can't get things to help me narrow down the question. But if I went, for example, to the United States, the question is, when is the CAE presentation? And I don't know when that is, so I maybe ask for a hint, and I can type the hint, or simply it's today, and submit it, and it turns green, and I now have that captured, and it shows up with my icon. And on the scoreboard now I am incremented to show that. And if I went to Canada, when is the War of 1912 or 1812? This is basically the way that the game works. And if we don't have a question underneath the country, then it's an inactive question. So just trying to navigate over to see if there's something in the comment box. I don't see it. Okay, so getting back to the way the days break out. So before they actually start the game, they have to register their team into the game, but we also have them complete a survey. And the survey gives us a little bit of information on their background and their interests and things like that. But one of the questions we ask them is what their interest is in potentially pursuing something in cybersecurity. Then we have the game, and the games are pretty pretty fun in that we might have 4 or 5 classrooms full of teams participating, and they're side by side. And you might have one team kind of spying on another, trying to pick up answers and so forth. You know, we don't have limiting rules from that perspective. They can kind of use any means they want. And we'll walk around and we have little trinkets and trash type giveaways that we might be passing out at various times throughout the day. But when the game ends and we have them complete another survey, and we ask some of the same questions, including what is your interest now that you've participated in pursuing the cybersecurity field. Now realize we have a different topic area for every competition, and we might run a half a dozen competitions during the school year. So it might be open source or digital forensics or penetration testing or something along that line. And it's interesting to see that we find the gain score is about 10%. So for example, if maybe 60% before the competition said that they were interested in it, it would be 70% after the competition. So the good news is that there's a gain. The thing that's a little bit slippery yet that we're trying to refine it's kind of simplistic to say, okay, what is the gain from open source versus the gain from digital forensics? You know, is there one that's more popular that's a better recruiting tool? But that's a little bit simplistic because part of that depends on are there any glitches in the network where something is running slow for a period of time during the game, or was the orientation session where we presented the background to be able to compete in the game, was it clear enough or not? And some of the things that we're working on doing is creating modules so that the students can complete the modules before they even get to campus, so that they're kind of pre-prepped. And another confounding thing is we have some students that come and participate in multiple games, multiple competitions, and some of them that are brand new. So there's some things in the data that we've got to refine a little bit, but overall we're finding that there is a gain, which is pretty important. Now after the game, we reassemble everybody into the auditorium again, and we go through and answer questions. Maybe there were some things within the competition that none of the teams got right or they struggled with, and we'll go through that, maybe show them how to answer the questions or what technique to use and that type of thing. We give a lot of kind of, I don't want to say they're gag gifts, but fun prizes, if you will. You know, some really cheap trophies and things like that. And then we conclude it with having like a pizza lunch. So we'll end up doing a lot of Little Caesars pizzas and things like that. And during the pizza lunch, we might have some other programs on campus set up tables so that students might be interested in maybe forensic accounting, for example, and they can talk to the forensic accounting people or you know, the networking program or something like that. And we also offer campus tours. So if they want to walk around campus and maybe see what a dorm looks like, or visit the library or the bookstore or something like that, or a cafeteria, just to get a sense. We do that, and we're finding that is actually very, very well received by not only the students, but also the teachers. Because we were a little bit concerned that if we built that in up front, that it would seem too much like a sales pitch. And what we found was that after some schools early in some of our earlier competitions a few years ago took some tours, that the word was kind of out that was a kind of a fun activity for whatever reason. Students like to do that. So, and it's interesting because you can see we're located in Michigan, and we get about 100 inches of snow a year here, and they still like to wander around campus. So that's what the day looks like. Let's see, some of the other things with a particular topic. We thought the open source topic would be the most popular, and that might be finding things in social media and just the Google engine and things like that, because we thought they could relate to that the most, and could most easily leverage that after the competition. But so far, that actually has been our least popular topic, and the most popular has been digital forensics. So I would like to get some questions, but I'm not seeing the box for chat and so forth.
If you look up at the very top, Greg, it should say, it should have like a little box that says you're viewing Greg's screen and also view options. Just hover over that and it should kind of take you in there. Do you see it?
I don't see it. I see the manage participants, new share, pause, annotate, remote control.
It'll be under more if it's not there, and it'll say chat.
Got it. Okay.
Okay, cool.
Okay. There's nothing in the chat yet. Okay. A couple other things with the game engine, and let me pull that back up. The way we run the game engine is we set up virtual machines and run them in the cloud. So the cloud environment that we're using is SkyTap. And there's a number of reasons why we're doing that. One is we don't necessarily want to expose competitions to the university network, if you will. But the other is a lot of times we might have participants that aren't necessarily on campus, and the cloud environment kind of helps level that playing field, and it eliminates credentialing and so forth that we have on our university network. For example, if you bring a device onto campus, you've got to register and download one of the little agents, and that type of thing is a little bit configuration prohibitive. And so we just go in and have them use lab computers in the various labs on campus. But if we have one or more students or one or more schools that want to participate remotely, we just give them the URL, and we control when the game starts and so forth, and they can participate remotely. But what we have found is that nearly all the schools want to come to campus. Within Michigan, there's this career exploration piece that schools are supposed to do a couple of days of career exploration, or encouraged to do it if not required. And this fits into that niche, and that has helped kind of stimulate the interest. And just to give you an idea, of the interest. So we're about 50 miles north of Grand Rapids, and Grand Rapids is the largest city in the area, and the metro is about 500,000. We have, just from the ISD in Grand Rapids, we have a request for about 5 times the number of seats that we have available for the entire series throughout the academic year. And we don't want to limit it to just Grand Rapids. We want to open it up to everybody. And we actually have schools from the Detroit area make the drive all the way over for the competitions. So there's quite a demand for this type of thing. The capture the flag environment seems to be really popular, and it takes virtually no training, which is a big thing in terms of the students hit the ground running and adapt to the engine right away and so forth. The real training is at that orientation point when it's introducing the topics and the tools. When we do mobile forensics, we use Celebrate usually, sometimes XRY, but Celebrate you can only use on campus. They don't allow that to be used in an online environment for the licensing. So that would prohibit the remote access to that type of a competition. One other thing, we have students within the ISI program serve as volunteers. So if we have about 150 students from high schools come in, we generally have about 10 students that are familiar with the technology that's part of the game, as well as the faculty. And we usually have about 6 ISI faculty that are participating as moderators or something within the game. The schools also bring the teachers, and sometimes they bring counselors and administrators. And we've had requests, and we're actually setting it up for this year to have the teachers compete in the games. In other words, just teachers against teachers. They haven't said they want to do the teachers against the students yet, although the students would love to compete against the teachers, but just the teachers want to get into this environment to get a sense of it so that they feel a little bit like they have a little bit better sense of what cybersecurity is when they are back in the classroom. So those are the main things that I wanted to cover. I was hoping to get some questions. If anybody has some questions. Okay, I don't see any in the chat window. Is there another area that you wanted me to cover? Because that's basically the overview of the competitions and you know what's behind setting them up and so forth. Okay, question is, what is the startup cost? In terms of the game engine that we use, you know, that was free. It was just the time and effort to create it. I suppose if somebody was interested in a copy of it, that you know we could lend that out. The main cost for us for the technical environment is the cloud time, and the cloud time is really quite minimal with the environment that we're using. The $250 per student or per student district. Means that if you have 10 districts, it's about $2,500 for that. We do the $5 pizzas at Little Caesars, so we end up doing about $250 worth of pizza, and some drinks and things and giveaways and so forth. It ends up being roughly $3,000 per competition. So. In terms of the PowerPoint, yeah, I can send those over so you can have them. Other questions?
Okay, well, thank you so much, Greg, for being with us today. I'm going to go ahead and repost where you can find all of the resources from Greg's talk today in the chat box. Everything is available on the CAE and cybersecurity community website. Again, it's going to take probably 24 to 48 hours for us to get the recording and all of the PowerPoints up there, so stay tuned. And then everything will be at the link in the chat box. So thank you all for coming today. Thank you again, Greg.
Okay, thank you.